I have started recording on OBS, so in theory,
Wow.
this should
I
work.
hope this part's in the video where Zach's going. In theory, it should be
I'm
recording.
probably gonna end up actually cutting the video out, and
Oh
then
wow, he's
The
already
power of
it's
editing.
well, yeah. This first
Where
time
are
it's
you
just
gonna
gonna be a
put it?
black
the
screen.
power of editing. It's like this never happened.
Where are you
Okay.
gonna put the video?
I'll upload it to
Or no.
Instagram and I'll get it on the YouTube. Okay.
Very epic.
You guys ready?
Yes.
No.
All right.
Mute
What do you need
us.
me to begin with?
You asked him if he's ready, and you
Hey, he
go,
doesn't.
all right, that's it. I'm muting you."
Hey, he doesn't need to know. All right. All right. Here we go. Let pull up our stuff today. All right. All right. Welcome to the Ankeny Rec Cast. This is Zach, also known as Sandy, and I got my co-host here, um, Coach
The
D
great.
Sizzle, and we're just gonna be kind of going over some of the stuff for the upcoming games, starting up with the AR3 season. I think the first thing we need to be talking about is just kind of getting an overview of what's going on here. So we're just getting ready to start. We had some delays in the season. Obviously, the original start time was supposed to be late September. That got pushed back due to some gym rental issues. Got pushed back again into late October, and we once again missed the deadline there and got pushed back into November. But now we are ready. We have the gym rented. We are all prepared, and there's a lot of excitement riding on this game. What do you think about? I guess the preparation, the excitement, the hype that everybody has coming into this game.
Well, I think it was really disappointing that we weren't able to start on the scheduled time, but I think that really built up more hype. There's a bit of a break between AR3 football to AR3 basketball. And due to that, there's a lot more people excited for this. I think we've got the most people there for AR3 basketball that we had. So, very exciting, very good start to the season. I'm hoping for this to be a good game.
I do agree too. We had an amazing AR3 football season. Everybody really showed out, and I think the success of AR3 football is really going to play into the success of AR3 basketball. Like you said, we have more people than ever this year. We've picked up a few free agents. We've added a few people, and the talent level has really increased. So I'm hoping to see everything get better. Um, we're going to go ahead and move on to kind of the state of the league right now, what we're looking at going forward from here, and basically how everything's laid out. So going forward, obviously most people know we have the gyms rented out for the rest of December through this first half of the season, and then into January we're hoping to rent out some more. So we have all of that taken care of. We have the team system, which just to describe that real quick, we're going to be drafting entire teams based off of two team captains. So this week it was myself and Grant Harris, who we'll have on the show later, and next week it is supposed to be, I believe it is Ryan and Rease will be our team captains, so they will be drafting on Friday. We will make sure to upload the results of that draft when it happens. And then on top of that, going into the games, we have a couple rule changes. If I remember correctly here, we're looking at 10-minute quarters in the game, and we're going to be doing 30-second breaks in between quarters, three timeouts. Your kind of standard brought back from last season, if you'd say. What do you think of how we got the rules outlined, Derek?
I think it's going to be really good. As long as everyone's read the rules, I think we're all prepared. And, you know, maybe it's like a little bit thin on the breaks in between quarters, but tyrants and whatnot that kind of causes this to happen. So
Well, and as you
hopefully in the
know,
future.
we play a very fast basketball game, so it's going to be interesting to see how these 10-minute quarters work out. See if that might be able to speed up the game, but not too much to where we're gassed out already.
And the availability for the gyms, having it rented out all the way throughout December, that's going to be big. I think winter break this year is going to be big as well, so long as people are still in town. Um, the only issue really is this week we're going to have to tape on that 3-point line, which we're going to get ahead of the game, done ahead of the game, and that won't be a huge problem for anyone, but probably three people who are actually going to have to tape it.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. And we have a good plan to get it taped off as well, so it shouldn't be a huge issue.
mhm. And I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts on that so far.
Very good. Let's look at the preseason. We didn't have an organized preseason like originally planned. Obviously, we were very busy with that AR3 football season, but we did manage to piece together a bit of a preseason through some pickup games, some private workouts as seen throughout our media channels earlier, as well as some pickup games even in PE. So, what do you think from the results that you saw first off? That the season is going to be looking like so far in terms of quality.
Well, I think everyone's been putting on like a lot of practice just before the season. That's something we didn't see last season. Everyone just wasn't taking it that serious. But this season, been talking to a couple people like Noah I talked to recently. He said that, even though it was snowing outside, he's gonna spend like an hour in his garage just focusing on ball handle and control. You know, and everyone's just super excited. Everyone's been putting in practice. Everyone's been making plans and stuff. And that side of the preseason, I think, is really exciting. Everyone's going to be up a notch above last year. I expected few bit higher scoring games. I don't believe anyone's really worked on defense much, so we'll see if how that ends up. Will the lankier guys be able to really control the defensive side?
There,
But as well in the preseason, there were quite a few key free agent pickups. We have and rookies are around. Our
yeah,
league has grown quite a bit, so do you want to talk about that a bit?
yeah. So just real quick, I'll touch on the preseason, then move to the rookies. Just a couple people I would like to mention through their preseason play. Two people to watch. One is being Zach Clark. He played quite well in his preseason games. He showed some shiftiness throughout the mid-range. Generally, the three-point shooting could use some work. However, he showed good promise on the defensive side, and especially on that offensive mid-range. It's going to be interesting to see how he's puts those skills to work in this matchup on the first week. And the other person I would like to mention is Ryan Weiss. He has bulked up over the offseason. He is a lot stronger, and his strength in AR3 Season 1 was already an issue. He was a strong guy, and despite his small size, he was hawking down rebounds. So it's going to be interesting with his athletic improvement, how he's going to manage the game this year as compared to last year.
Yeah,
And
I
the,
definitely agree with that, and I think that really puts him a step above Tyson, who was kind of in the same role last year, but you know he hasn't really bulked up that much over the preseason. He's kind of the same way as he was last season, so we'll see if his grit and determination will keep him on the same par as Ryan.
and it's going to be a competitive season. Everybody has already improved, so it's going to be interesting to see how it develops. And speaking of development, we got to touch on these rookies. We're going over player expectations. We got essentially four high class rookies entering into the league this year. This is more than we've seen in previous years. Um, the first guy I just want to mention, the number one rookie, highest on the chart, highest expectations, Zane Ingersoll. Tell me what you think about him.
I mean, he's super athletic. I mean, everyone knows about his like success during the football league. He was tearing it up in football, and he also, like many other people in this league, like Ben, yourself, Noah, is a was a participant in the actual high school basketball teams, and I think that just gives him so much more experience than a lot of these people. He's quick, he's small. He's small but not tall. Like he's skinny but quick. He's kind of got build like Grant.
Yeah, and I have personal experience playing with him. Like you said, he played on the high school team. I played ACBC with him, and he is certainly a character at point guard. He handles the ball really well. You will hardly see him turn the ball over. Um, really good with the rock, really careful with it. He can shoot the ball. He is incredibly shifty. You would think for his shorter size he might have trouble going in the paint, but he does not hesitate to slash into the paint, almost akin to like a Russell Westbrook, and go up and get those buckets. Like you said,
Yeah,
he was a hawk at wide receiver in AR3 football. So I have a feeling he's really going to put those athletic skills to use in this first matchup here.
I really think, all his expectations. Will he be able to match it? I think so. his expectations really are, I feel, lower than what he's already shown. Like, I think he's going to be Rookie of the Year, potentially even MVP this year.
So showing a lot of confidence in Zane early, but let's go ahead and move on to a little bit more veteran player, at least in AR3. Played a couple games last season, essentially redshirted, however. It's Davin Baker. He's coming in on his first full season power forward. Kind of the same background as Zane, played for the high school, played for ACBC, found a little bit less success there, but what do you think about Davin so far, about what you've heard?
Well, I think he's very underlooked in the terms of rookies. He has the same experience as Zane. He's a taller, a bit more, got a bit bigger of a wingspan. He can really match up well against some of the taller people, despite a little bit of a height disadvantage, while still being quick on his feet. I think that he's gonna have a great year, but I still have Zane above him.
Yeah, I do agree. I think Davin's set to have a pretty solid year. Maybe nothing stellar. He is an interesting character, being that he does not play the power forward role traditionally. He's much more of a stretch four power forward. In my experience playing with him, the one flaw in his game is that he lacks the strength to go into the paint and really go up with some of the big guys, such as myself, Clark, and even Jesse. However, he controls that mid-range game incredibly well. I rarely see him miss one of those mid-range jumpers, and he can be pretty shifty on the three-point line if needed. So he's going to be an interesting player to watch.
And I think he'll really stretch out, the defense. He'll create lanes for himself or other players on his team to get open, get some driving range to the hoop.
Absolutely.
So
Now let's
I
talk.
think he'll definitely be essential to his team.
Yeah. Now let's go ahead and talk about another kind of very similar situation. Power forward, red shirt rookie. We have Zach Clark. I feel like he's a bit underrated in terms of his game style, but he has the experience. He's played ACBC, cross country runner. He has the stamina. I think he can play well. How do you think he's going to fare in this first matchup? Obviously, being matched up against me and my team, how do you think he's going to get around that?
Well, I think he'll need to play with his team obviously, but he's got that build that he can actually go in there, get up some shots from around the rim, get some good mid-range shots in. I haven't seen him play much personally, but I believe that what you need to look for is that stamina he's got. He's able to play every minute of every quarter, I believe, and he'll be able to keep up with you guys all game. You guys are going to be exhausted, and he's still going to be going. That track experience is big for him.
He's very similar to Davin, in my opinion, whereas in my experience, he lacks the strength to work the post as much as a bigger specific center would, but he fits well into that power forward position. He's able to pull up from the mid-range. He's shifty in the middle, like I've said. He can play very solid defense. He's a good defender. Now, there are some gaps in the defense occasionally. Everybody has that. You might get some mismatches on him, but against a player of his caliber, he plays very good defense. Now, the one advantage over Davin I think Clark has is Clark is a little bit stronger going up at the rim. Now, he's not going to be your kind of Shaquille O'Neal type guy, but he can go in there and take that contact and still score, whereas Davin might shy away from that contact.
Yeah, and I think that's a big advantage for him. You know, these guys are really physical, and if you're able to take that going into the rim, you're gonna do great in this league.
Yeah, and you know this AR3 is physical. If we look back at last year, the first game, the amount of fouls, the amount of contact, it's going to be a rough one this week.
I think we should touch base on that later, but before we do that, let's move on to Dane. I know nothing about this kid. What do you have to say about him?
So Dane is an incredibly underlooked prospect. He hasn't really been scouted by anybody before. Me and Robbie know him best. We've played a little bit in the preseason with him, specifically in gym, and he is an interesting player. He's a small forward. He can stretch the floor. He's got some height to him. He's 6'3", right? He's a big small forward. Now, he does not use his height very well. He's not very strong. If I had to classify him, he's like a little bit skinnier version of Zach Clark that's going to be playing more on the perimeter, almost like Noah. He shares a lot of characteristics with Noah Gossman. He's got some dribble moves. He can protect the ball. His defense is his main weakness. He's not very good on defense. He can play up to your small forward position, but if you put him on somebody with a little bit of length, such as myself, Noah Clark, he might not be able to keep up. But where I really like him is shooting the mid-range and the three. I think as a sixth man coming off the bench or possibly even starting, he's a good option to spread the defense out and have your offensive weapons separated. That's where I think he's overlooked. He won't be so flashy in the stats, but I think that this man could be a serious candidate for Sixth Man of the Year this year.
So you were comparing him to Noah. Do you think he'll be seeing the same volume of shots taken as Noah gets usually?
So we're hoping that he's going to develop in more of a team player role, but based on the preseason, he was shooting at a little bit under the volume of shots of Noah Gossman, but certainly a higher volume of shots. Now, if we can get him out of that for my team, that would be my plan, and get him into much more of a protect role. But he is one of the types where he's going for broke on some of these jump shots, and that is a flaw in his game.
So do you think we could see like 3 after 3 made by Noah and then Dane and Noah and then Dane just turn it into a shootout of sorts?
If we're
These
going,
games?
that would happen possibly late into a game. If we're talking maybe third quarter, the starters are tired, worn out. Dane might check in off the bench, and they could be having a scoring battle going back and forth. But it's really going to be determined by the players on defense and how tired they get.
Yeah. And I think just talking about this first game of the season, Jesse's coming off the bench. How do you think he'll match up against Dane?
So, in terms of six-man, Dane is certainly more versatile. The problem with Jesse is he's much more of a game manager type player. A little bit slower. He doesn't have a bag of tricks to dig into. That's his main flaw. He's kind of limited to the moves he could do. He's not so versatile outside. I like Jesse in a mid-game sub to possibly put some points on the board in the post. He's a big body to have in the post, but overall, I think Dane is going to be putting up much more stats. He's just a lot more versatile than Jesse.
And I do think Jesse lacks a bit defensively. That's a very common thought that many people have.
And that is a big
But I do
issue.
think what people overlook is how consistent he is from the 3 range. He can shoot, like, his form is very repetitive for himself. He doesn't mess up. Like, if he's open, he'll hit that shot no matter what. I've not seen him miss an open shot
I do agree.
from 3.
If he is able to get those open looks off of a screen or something like that, he will be a consistent bucket getter. But you have to weigh your pros and cons there. But that's mostly up to how the team wants to set up. So it'll be interesting to see what the stats look like by the end of this week.
I agree. Well, I think we should move on and introduce our guests for the night. We have 2 of them, and both of them are players for AR3.
Yep.
You want to introduce Zach?
Yep. So first will be point guard. He's going to be on Team White this week. Team captain, we have Grant Harris coming in. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Grant.
As he said, yes, I am captain of Team White, the better color.
All right. And then other side, we also have starting small forward for Team Black. We have Rease Doak. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's up?
All right.
Yeah,
How are you guys doing tonight?
part of Sanders' team.
I'm doing great.
Doing great.
I tried on my beater earlier, and I looked down, and I didn't realize how see-through they were. And so I'm hoping that there's no one that's gay in our league, because they're gonna have a fun time with that.
Well, we cleared Carson out.
Well, I
haven't
doubt
we?
Mr. Bender coming this week. But
Let's just be real, anyone.
All right.
so
Being honest here.
We got a couple talking points for you guys. Grant, I would like to start with you, Team White. We're just going to ask you, go ahead and talk about your team. What do you feel about the chemistry? What do you feel about the players? Just kind of give us your thoughts about your team and how they stack up to the opposition.
Thank you. I would like to start out by saying that Team White will be sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Great game. Go check it out. As for the chemistry, you know, it's low. Noah is, how do you say, he's a one-man show, one-man band. That really takes a lot out of our team. Everyone else seems to be in pretty high hopes. We had some troubles with Jesse. He had some injury. I
Yeah,
can't remember what it was.
we also heard of some
Clark,
possible roster trouble involving Jesse and them.
uh, no roster trouble as far as I'm concerned. Will may or may not play based on how he's feeling. Clark is feeling very good about the game, as you know, Sandy. He has very high hopes, especially against you. I hear talking.
All right, and
So do
then
you think your team's going to be able to pull it out, Grant?
I do. I think the key to our game is based on pace. I think we have the better conditioned players between myself, Noah, and Clark. You know, we all ran cross country, so we're all in shape right now, and we hope to use that against your guys' team.
all right, very good. Let's go ahead and switch to Reese now. Ask you the same question. Team Black, obviously, on my team. What do you feel about the chemistry? What do you feel about the players? Just how you feeling overall?
I feel like we got the chemistry. I feel like we're way more like fundamental. I think we can get buckets more consistently. We'll be smarter. And to be honest, I've been hearing a lot of smack on the other team. We're not going to let that get in our head. I think we'll just play a lot better. Um, I like you, Sander. I think you'll give us the height. I think you'll be a lot more aggressive in the lane, and I think that will really help us. Um, so yeah, that's all I really got to say. I think we'll have a lot more defense too on our team. I think that will really help.
So, have a question for you, and we've discussed this at the lunch table and the chats, in the media lines. Last year, we had a very similar team for the first game, and it went wrong. What exactly happened is not 100% determined, but we ended up losing by 3 points, and many believe that the reason for that loss is attributed to Noah Gossman getting in the heads of the other team, specifically Robert Mann and Ben Horner. How do you think Team Black is going to combat that this time?
We just gotta, we just can't listen to him. We gotta kind of like shut him up too. We gotta play defense on him, get him to shoot less shots, make him less comfortable so he doesn't talk shit. So, um, I don't know. I mean, Ben and Robert, I mean, they could play too. So hopefully they can shut him up too, so he can quiet down.
Well, Reese, do you think your team will be able to pull it out today or tomorrow? My bad.
Oh, I think we will. I have confidence with this
You have a
team.
lot of confidence.
Oh yeah, you always got to. You always got to. Every how
Reese,
you
So,
will
get
you be
through.
playing tomorrow?
just making a quick observation. It seems like Grant's team is more full of track players, right? And your team seems more full of people who actually played basketball in the past. What do you think is more
Mhm.
important, the actual, you know, skill, history of playing basketball in high school versus the stamina that comes with cross country and track?
I think I think the history of basketball because you've been around that environment and you'll have more IQ on the court too. To get easier shots up, be smarter. But I do think having endurance, having that stamina really does help. But I think having more history and being in that environment on the basketball court is a lot more helpful.
Well, and finally, just asking you two guys, who do you think is going to perform best on each of your teams tomorrow? Grant, you can go first.
Grant, you go first.
Everyone's expecting Noah to come out and have a good game, but I think with reports of his luck running out in the preseason, I think that Clark will be the unlikely hero of my team to sort of lead us to victory.
All right, and Reese, what do you think for your team?
I think our dark horse guy. I will start out with our dark horse. I think it will be Sanders. I think he will manage to get those buckets up. But you could also make an argument for Ben. He can shoot up the three. He can shoot it about anywhere. He's smart defensively. He's got a great IQ, and I think our overall best player for tomorrow, I think, will be Zane because he's got the history. He's got the athleticism. He can get up there. He can attack the lane. He's not afraid.
See,
Another guy with a lot of confidence in Zane.
and
Well,
I would like to just real quick add on a point about Ben. I kind of agree with your look there. This is essentially a revenge game for Ben. He got bullied by Noah Gossman last year. So I really think he's coming out with a chip on his shoulder. He's looking to perform today or tomorrow, and hopefully he's able to do so. But it's going to be interesting to see how that goes.
I think I'm gonna bring up Zane again. Let's move on. What do you guys think about our rookies this year? So, starting with Zane, you guys can talk. Either of you, go ahead. Voice your
Okay.
opinion.
Back to kind of what I was saying. He's got the athleticism. He's got agility. He's got other sport backgrounds. He's played football. So he's got that speed. He's got the stamina. Um, but also he's been in that environment of basketball, playing for school. So I mean, kind of what you need there.
All right, Grant, what do you think?
Uh, Zane is his athleticism is honestly astonishing. He reminds me of sort of like an Allen Iverson type player. He's more of a slasher, but he can shoot if he needs to. He's also very protective of the ball. Davin was a huge pickup for us. I'm hoping he can get us some of the offense that we need outside of Noah or Clark. And yeah,
Reese, what's your thoughts on Devin?
We haven't really. I mean, personally, I haven't seen much of Davin. Really not until the start of like freshman year, so a few years ago. But after that, I kind of didn't see him play for a while, and then last season, he played all right. I think there's many aspects though that he could really work on. Especially getting aggressive in the lane. But if he gets that figured out, I think he can be an all-around really good basketball player for the team and for the league.
Grant, you picked up Zach Clark recently, so I wanted you to talk about your expectations for him this year as a rookie.
yes, I believe he played one or two games with us last year, and I don't really remember too much from his gameplay, but I did play with him back in eighth grade on ACBC, and I remember he was an absolute monster. He was a unit in the paint. I mean, if he wanted to get to a spot, he could. Like he was an offensive beast. So I'm looking for him to pull out some of that throwback
Um,
tomorrow.
do you think you guys will have any chemistry from that old ACBC being old teammates?
Well, I rode the bench, so
All right, well,
What
Reese, what are your thoughts on Clark?
Honestly, I think Clark's a great all-around player. Like kind of what you guys were saying earlier. I think he could work on his threes, like all around the perimeter. But all other than that, I mean, he's got mid-range. He's got the inside. He's kind of like a Dirk, if I must say. It's pretty good, or like a Tim Duncan. He's very fundamental.
I do agree with
He's
that.
very smart with the ball, so he could post up, fade if he wants to. He could work on that, and I think once he gets the 3 point down, I think he can be a great high like draft prospect. Each draft we have, I think his stock will go up, and he may be like first overall eventually.
All right, and then where are we looking at on Dane? I know you guys don't have too much experience playing with him, but just what are your thoughts right off the rip?
Um, Obviously his height. I'm gonna be honest. I've never played with the kid. I just know he's tall, so that'll really help. For whatever team he's on. It doesn't matter. So really all you need.
To me, Dane, he kind of seems like a sneaky, athletic kind of guy. He seems to be like a fun guy to be around. So I think whichever team gets in, the chemistry is definitely going to be higher than the other team. So I think that is a positive of his. But as for basketball skill, I have no clue where to label him or how to label him.
All right, well, that's good to get some insight from you guys on kind of our rookies and what do you think about your teams. We're going to keep on bringing you guys down through, and we're going to pick up now with a review of last year. Everybody in this chat right now got some playing time last year, various extents, coming off the bench, starting, and we're just going to kind of talk about what happened. So, just to review that first game from last year, looking back and comparing it to how this game might go. That first game last year was incredibly sloppy. We had no preseason, and I feel like we all kind of came in there with cold feet, and many of us hadn't played basketball in months. And it was we went in there. It was a knockdown, drag out fight. I think my team ended up losing by 3 points to Noah, and there was a lot of fouls, lots of turnovers, and lots of cherry picking. Um, Derek, if you want to go ahead and comment on just kind of how the game has evolved since last year, looking back, and then we'll just kind of continue on down through the line with Grant and Reese.
I think really last year players were way more selfish than they are now. I think they didn't care so much about winning as they did about beating the person that was defending them, if you catch my drift. So, I think this year people care much more about winning. The bench, last year I don't even think we had a bench at all. Like, it was just everyone playing for the full time. I think that might have attributed to the sloppiness. Now each team has at least 3 players on their bench, rest up some tired legs, and I think that's big for each team, and the overall play. I think it should look better this year. I think we've all matured a bit. I think, we'll be keeping track of fouls. We got a rule book now, and we got a way to deal with, shooting fouls and whatnot. So I believe it should go much better than last year. What are your thoughts, Zach?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. It should develop a little bit better. I'm gonna pass off to Grant. He played in that first game last year. Starting point guard, he got thrashed around. How did you think it was, and how do you think it's gonna lead to maybe a better game now?
It was definitely physical and sloppy. I remember it being extremely physical, especially in the paint. Fouls were just, I mean, you didn't call them. And if, like, there were all sorts of fouls, flagrant fouls, technical fouls, none of them got called. So I think we're going to clean up on that a little bit more this year. As for the sloppiness, it may take a few games, but I feel like we'll get to a point where it's not as much of an issue.
And then, Reese, specifically what I wanted to ask you was about how you think people's games have improved since last year. Because, like we've all reiterated, last year was very sloppy, and I feel like we didn't have a lot of those fundamentals. But now, looking at the preseason, everybody's looking a lot more clean cut. How do you think that it's going to look when we actually put, rubber to the road on when the season begins tomorrow?
Um, well, I mean, last year kind of back to what you guys were saying. Like last year, a lot more sloppy, but we're gonna still be physical. Less sloppy, less, more athletic, than we were last year. So I think it'll be a lot more smoother. We'll actually have play designs. We'll be smart with the ball, obviously, try to be. But I think the physicality will still be there. Um, Not no promises on less fouls, but it should be a lot smoother, and everyone will kind of be involved more, sharing the ball. So yeah.
All right.
Well,
Yeah,
uh,
let's pretty good reiteration on that. I think that was a good review of last year, honestly, and it's good to see that we all agree on a kind of cautious optimism that this season should turn out better. We've all improved our games, but then again, we're coming off fresh, so who knows what could happen. While we're doing that, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some of these fantasy stats here. A new thing that we've tried this year, kind of invigorate some people, is we're going to be doing over-unders for a few select players, combined points totals, and as the season goes on, we might expand that a little bit. So, Derek, I just want you to kind of go through these stats and just kind of let me know what your opinion was on these fantasy picks, and then why do you think that is? So starting with obviously your point line.
well, I've never really gotten the ball much in these games, football, whatnot. We're literally the shortest guy in AR. Uh, I honestly, personally, I don't see myself getting the ball enough to even score more than 2.5 points, but a lot of people have faith in me. The only guy voting against me, I only have one guy voting against me, and the majority is going me getting above 2.5. But moving on to Zane's, Zane's is actually 50-50. He's got his over under is 12.5 points, and it's completely 50-50. I honestly personally have him going over. I think everyone sees him as a sneaky athletic guy, getting some big points in, really contributing. Reese, do you have something to say?
Um, I agree with you. I think he will go over on that. Because he's very athletic. He can get up there, get points. He's an all-around good teammate. So
Yeah, and I think that previous experience is just gonna get him over that 12.5. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get 12.5 at least. So Ryan's, no one is voting for him going above 9.5 points.
Possibly an error on
I'm
the stat predictor there.
everyone. I am going under on that one, and I believe if you're going over on that, maybe he'll get over 9.5 rebounds, but I don't see him getting over 9.5 points. And the combined points prediction is over under is 60.5. So I'm personally going over that. I think, everyone's been working on their offense this year. No one's been working on their defense. There's going to be zero defense. And it's definitely going to be over 60 points. What are your thoughts, Zach?
All right, so starting back up at the top, Derek's point line. I'm kind of surprised that five, or I guess four people have picked the over, but I do understand it. Specifically, the reason I'm picking the over for Derek here, I'm aware of his background, as his size is a concern. He had some issues with football, but he did do some great things there. Why I like Derek on this point line is because of a new rule implemented this year, and it is and one shots. If you hit a two-pointer and you are fouled, you automatically get that extra point. So all Derek has to do is hit a lucky three or get that and one shot, which shouldn't be that hard to do with how sloppy the defense I'm sure will be, and that's going to cross that point line. So that's why I'll be picking over on that, and I would advise everyone to do the same. As for Zane, split down the middle, 3-3. I have the under. Now, a lot of people are going to question this because I have been hyping up Zane, as has everybody in here, and I do agree. He is crazy athletic. He's a great point guard, and he can shoot the ball. He can handle the rock. I don't think 12.5 is going to be an achievable number for him because our team has a lot of talent on it, a lot of guys that can score. That's something that I think our team has that's a little bit different than Team White. We don't really have any role players starting in the offense. Now, whether that's good or bad is yet to be seen. That really doesn't mean much. But what that means is we're going to have more people scoring points over the line. Now, I do like Zane getting maybe 10, maybe even 11, but 12.5 I feels a bit high, so I'm going to take the under on that, but I do feel that could go either way. Ryan, give me the under. I'm just with Derek on that. 9.5 rebounds, maybe. Maybe. He is a rebounding machine, but 9.5 points, no, it's not going to happen. He was notorious last year for unnecessary dribble moves and turning the ball over, and he has trouble scoring anywhere. He faces the same problems as Derek. His height is his Achilles heel. He can't go into the paint and get those easy buckets, not with the big towers like me, Clark, Jesse in that paint. And he can't really shoot the three that well. His form is a little bit underdeveloped. It could use some work. So 9.5, that's a no. I got him maybe with 4. And then for the combined points, 60.5. This is the best line. I feel it could go either way, but I'm still a bit concerned about the offensive skill. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I think it's going to be defense oriented. Despite the lack of practice on defense, I feel like everybody's going to harden themselves for this game. I got this game maybe combining to 50, maybe 55. It's going to be real close, though. So that one can go either way. Grant, what are your picks on these 4?
Just can you give me the numbers one at a time?
Yep. So Derek's point line is going to be 2.5, and it's over or under.
I got Derek over for that. I think Derek will be a huge piece. I think the pick and rolls with him are going to be great, and possibly a lucky 3. I hope, Derek, if you can get one of those, I would love that. But I definitely have him over.
All right, second stat.
Zane's point line is 12.5 over under. What are your thoughts on
Ooh,
that, Grant?
I'm guarding him, so I have to say under. That's it.
With that, it's half and half, so I'll probably be the deciding factor on that. Ryan's point line, I think we all know what you're going with, but it's 9.5.
Ryan's good. I think he's speedy. I mean, he beat all of AR3 in a foot race, and he was in Crocs, and this was preseason. So I think he'll be able to cherry pick some layups, but I don't quite think he'll get to the desired numbers. So I have him under for that.
And the combined points, 60.5 over under.
I think a lot of people are underrating the defenses and also how sloppy this game might be. So I'm going to have to go under. I don't think that the combined points is going to be up to par with that.
And Reese, what do you think? My point line, 2.5 over under.
You know what, Derek, I have much respect for you. I'm gonna put you over that line because I believe in you. I think you can get up. You have a lot of game to work with, but I do think you'll get some lucky points in there coming off the bench. So yeah.
Then Zane's point line, 12.5 over under.
Oh, that man's going over. I think he's just so athletically gifted. I think he can just get his points. He's going to be our main offense there. So yeah.
That's really been the argument tonight. Is he just overrated or underrated? That's what his over under is. Ryan's point line, 9.5 over under. What do you think?
No disrespect to Ryan. I think he will be under. But I think that's kind of what it's all about for him. He's on that revenge tour. But yeah, I think eventually he will get over that. He's more of a team player. He doesn't get much points offensively or whatever, but I think he will help us defensively though.
And the combined points, 60.5. What's your thoughts?
I think it'll be under.
Under
Just
60
because
points.
I think we have improved on defense. And I think both teams are going to be making a lot of stupid shot selections. And that will just come a lot of misses, especially on Noah's team.
Well, we'll
Actually,
see
I'd
how
like to
this
go
Shots
all
more.
fired.
Hey,
we'll see how this all turns out tomorrow. We'll see these over unders, how they turn out. So make your bets now.
All right.
Go the basketball channel, make your votes, and we'll see how they turn out.
All right, and then that'll do for our guest segment. I would like to thank Grant Harris, Rease Doak, for coming on, offering your guys' insight. You both did a great job. I feel like it was
Absolutely.
really good to have your
Absolutely,
insight on
man.
these issues. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and mute you
But
guys now,
see you
and
guys
we're going to
again.
be moving on to, I believe it is the possible really early season award predictions. Derek, you want to go ahead and start us off with your picks for these four? If you would like to just name the 5 awards that we're going to be listing off here.
Take this all with a grain of salt. This is way the title of it, so I haven't seen a single game out of these guys, but the awards today are MVP, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, and Sixth Man of the Year. So I will start off with the Sixth Man of the Year award. I think that will be going to Jesse. I think him coming off the bench, his consistency with shooting and whatnot is I think he's gonna sneak up on us. I think he's a very underrated person in the league. I think he's a step above Dane, the rookie, and most of the benches, no disrespect, they are not on the same level as Jesse. They are not near the same height as Jesse, and he's gonna dominate off the bench compared to other members. Defensive Player of the Year, I got Zach Sanders. He's got a lot of body control. He's got a lot of length to himself. A bit underweighted compared to some other players, but he's fast. He can stay on there. I've seen him do some mean blocks, and Zach, I got a lot of respect for your defense. I would never put up a shot against you personally. Offensive Player of the Year, that's a tough one. I don't really know who to go with. Uh, so I'll just throw up a random name that no one's probably expecting, but maybe Ben.
Hmm.
Ben's got actual experience. He was playing up until last year, so he could potentially get the Offensive Player of the Year, as long as we aren't given the Offensive Player of the Year to whoever gets the MVP award. So, but based purely on offense, potentially we could see Jesse getting a Sixth Man of the Year and an Offensive Player of the Year. That one's completely up in the air right now. I don't see who's gonna get it. Rookie of the Year, I got high expectations for Zane. Uh, so my way too early award is going to Zane, but I think there's a lot of potential for Davin or Clark to take that. I've not seen Dane play, so I can't say anything for him. It's really, you know, these kids got a lot of things, like, they're really fighting for that spot, and, Zane's going to give them a hard challenge for that. For my MVP, man, I don't know. I think it could be, oh, it's a tough one. You know, if Zane has an insane year, like everyone's expecting, I could see him becoming the MVP. But I think with Noah's luck running out, as everyone's been saying, but Sanders' consistency, I think I've got Zach Sanders going for the MVP this year. So Zach, I wish you the best of luck for this, and I'd like to hear your choices for all these.
All right, thank you very much. Starting from the bottom once again, Sixth Man of the Year. This is honestly just a two-way battle in my opinion, at least before the season starts. It's between Dane and Jesse. Derek, like you said, I like your Jesse pick a little bit. It's Dane's race to lose, in my opinion, though. I got Dane Sixth Man of the Year. I think his versatility is what's going to make the difference. The ability to swap him into any position that you want. You can play the point. He could run small forward. You can even push him all the way down to power forward if you need. I think is what's going to make the difference. Now, it's certainly going to be a close race, but give me Dane Sixth Man of the Year. Offensive Player of the Year. This one's going to be tough. Personally, I see it being a three-way race between possibly Noah Gossman, I got Zach Clark, and I also got Robert Mann. Now, I like Zane here as well, but I think Zane is going to be putting his efforts elsewhere, and I'm liking Robert Mann the most out of those three, followed closely, very closely by Noah Gossman and Zach Clark. I just think Robbie's going to get the better looks. He's a big body. He's proven time and time again that he can go up and be physical. and that he can also shoot the three. I think whatever team he's on is going to give him the looks he needs to really put him over the top for Offensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year, this one's going to be tough. I don't want to vote for myself because that's a little bit self-centered. I would if I could, but I do like a couple other players on defense, specifically Zane. I like Zane on defense. I feel like Zane is really quick. He puts that speed well. He can lock down any guard. But on top of that, he is really good at getting into centers' faces and knocking that ball free on double teams. He's done it time and time again in ninth grade, in high school, and I've seen him do it time and time again at ACBC. So I do like Zane as my Defensive Player of the Year. Rookie of the Year, again, this one's going to be close. Zane, I do like him out there. Davin Clark as well, I agree. This is not Dane's award to win, in my opinion. Dane will not claim Rookie of the Year, so it's a three-way race. And personally, just in terms of who's putting in more work for their team, I feel like Zane's going to be putting more points on the board, but I feel like Clark is going to be a bigger part of the team, if you understand what I mean. He's going to be a bigger reason they win games. So I do like Zach Clark for my Rookie of the Year, but Zane is right there and could possibly snatch it out from under him. MVP, Most Valuable Player, this is a hard one to say, but I have to acknowledge it. Noah Gossman. If he can get his shot corrected, there's no denying the points that he puts on the board. Even despite the bad passing, the occasional bad shooting, he gets points, and he can make those moves underneath. I think he's incredibly valuable to if a team wins or not.
And I absolutely agree with you. The only reason I haven't voted for Noah here is I've been hearing so much about his luck running out, and really his luck, or like almost like magic, has won him games in the past. The very first ever AR3 game, I think
It was one
he
on one
was
of his
actually the one
lucky
who
shots.
I think he was the one who won a 3-pointer. Hit it, win. You know. So he is definitely the most valuable player last year, but we'll see here.
Yeah.
It's his award to lose.
Once again, all these rewards really early on, but these are just me and Derek's opinions here, our predictions. Let's go ahead and move on to some more kind of bottom things here as we wind down here and get ready to end the show. Let's talk about our one available free agent, William Bender. Let's talk about his upside, his downside, and what teams could do with him going forward, as he is the only one that has so far gone undrafted.
Well, William actually has really good handles, I gotta say. Like, he can do some nasty moves, but he cannot shoot at all. I mean, he is honestly horrible at shooting, but his handles are great. He'll trip people up. I think whoever picks him up can see some open shots for his other guys if people start focusing on him a bit. So that's my thoughts on Will. He's not a huge player, but he could be a valuable role player to whatever team he gets picked up by.
I think he's a decent pickup as a reserve player in a team's secondary. I think he can play good defense. He does suffer in the stamina sector, but
Yeah.
he can play the defense. He hit some really lucky threes last year by some act of God. I think Noah's luck may have rubbed off a little bit, so I don't see that happening again this year, but he could be a good man for the secondary team to come out there, and while they're playing, he can hold down the fort. He will stop the offense from scoring. He can hold up with Corbin, Landon Tyson, maybe even going all the way up to Jesse. Not him on Jesse, but that caliber of player. I think he can go out there and at least prevent points from going on the board.
Yeah, and I think he won't be able to do anything to Jesse or Dane just due to his height, his size.
Yeah, he's just
But
not built for that.
people his build, myself, maybe even Rease, Ryan, these guys, Tyson, we're all like bigger than him, but he's around the same size. He could give us trouble with his defensive handles, I believe. So, you know, he's more of a depth player. You won't see this kid starting at any time, but he's definitely somebody who, whoever picks him up can see some good depth.
All right, and finally to wrap up the show before we go into our full wrap up here, Let's go ahead and talk about these claimed free agents. Specifically, who I want to talk about is the people that went undrafted here. We're talking Landon Brown, Jaden Minnis, Dane Harbert, Davin Baker Inc. How do you think their, I guess, progress in the league is going to continue forward? Whether it's going to be progression, regression. If you see some of these guys being top draft picks here in the next few weeks, what's your opinion on that?
Dane and Davin are definitely, as long as they decide to continue in AR3, guys will definitely be being picked before Jaden and Landon. And no disrespect to either of them, they're great people, but they're fan about. They're definitely better players. But Dane and Davin have chances to become starters, big players in this league, and high expectations for them. And I think talking about Jaden and Landon, if they work on their shots and their handles, whatnot, they're pretty much prospects. But if they actually decide to focus and see improving their game, and if they really dedicate to it, could see a lot more playing time for themselves. But I don't really see them dedicating themselves to it, and be on the bench most of the season. He's probably get some crucial plays in. You never know how games end up, and sometimes they end up with these get. We'll see how they do.
Yeah, I do agree with that, specifically on that last part. Landon Brown and Jaden Minnis are both easily reserved players. There's no questioning that. But I do think Jaden has a much higher ceiling. If he works on his game, I I do think he could play at maybe not quite a sixth man, but maybe a seventh man. Taking point on the secondary rotation level. Landon, I just don't see that happening. I see ways that teams could use him, but I do think Jaden has room to move up.
Well, I
As
think I hate to interrupt, but talking about Landon, I think his ceiling is really dropped just because of his confidence. You never see him like really wanting to play basketball. He'll never 1v1 or like have fun just playing basketball.
That is true.
And that's just like
He needs to build that
a big
confidence.
hindrance. If he's got that confidence, he could definitely improve himself. But right now, his biggest obstacle is that confidence, and without that confidence, you won't see him getting any huge looks. But Jaden, he's got a lot of confidence. He may not be the best athletically or anything else in that category, but he can match up well with the other bench players, I believe.
All right, and then just to talk about Dane and Davin, because I see them in very two different lights. Davin Baker Inc., depending on how his play is this Thursday, I see him very easily moving into maybe just outside the top five in terms of picks. He could be a top five pick for the next draft. It's kind of how the team captains want to review the film and how they want to play that, but I see him moving up. Whereas Dane, I see him sitting kind of middle lineup. Now, if he has some sort of breakout game, which I think is personally unlikely, but if he has it, he could move maybe top seven. But I don't think he'll be taking top five anytime soon. He's just lacking the development of the skills. That's where I see him being that kind of six man of the year award. He's going to fall right into that six man draft pick, maybe pick 10, 11, somewhere around there. Whereas Davin, I see exceeding up into the top five. But you never know. If Dane has a breakout and Davin falls, they could be flipped. Only time will tell.
Yeah, absolutely. And first ever podcast, for the entire Ankeny Rec group. So, big expectations. The season hasn't even started. These guys, everything that we said, within just a month could be completely wrong. But this is where we stand right now. So, Zach, if you'd like to sign us off.
Yeah, so I'd like to thank all of you guys for tuning in to the Ankeny Rec Cast here. Great turnout tonight. Thank you guys all for showing up. This recording will be made available as soon as I can have it. And like Derek said, who knows what will happen in the next week? Who knows what will happen in the next day? These are just our predictions. It'll be nice to look back on this, but we'd like to thank you all for coming. Always feel free, message me, message Derek about possible recommendations for the next show. And, of course, we're going to be switching it up next time, so catch us next time. We'll be streaming this again after AR3 this Thursday. I'm not exactly sure what day we'll be doing it, but we will be streaming this again, and we're going to be going over what we got right, what we got wrong, and basically what happened on Thursday, stat lines, and all of that. So with that, we're going to be signing off. Thank you all for coming, and if you would like to continue talking in the chat, feel free to move into Team Room 1. That's where I will be moving after this, so we can discuss a few things and get on the road. But yeah, thank you guys.